The chocolate river was a lie. On screen, it looked like a rushing waterfall of pure, warm sweetness. In reality, the crew had filled the studio trench with thousands of gallons of water, mixed in cocoa powder, and left it sitting under massive, scorching studio lights. Within days, the mixture began to spoil. By the time they filmed the scene where Augustus Gloop falls in, the entire soundstage smelled like rotting garbage. That was the reality of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It was a world of pure imagination, built on top of rotting water, toxic foam, and real physical danger. More than 50 years later, the gates to the factory are permanently closed. Out of the 5 children who found a golden ticket and the parents who held their hands, the roster of the living has grown devastatingly short. Some of them walked away from the camera the moment the movie wrapped and never came back. Others were trapped in bodies that betrayed them or died violently on foreign sets. The candy didn't last forever. Today, we are looking at the final living links to the 1971 masterpiece, the secrets they kept from the cameras, and the tragic fates of the ones who have already taken their final bow.
Charlie Bucket was the boy who had nothing and ended up with everything. He inherited the empire because he was the only child who knew the value of a single piece of chocolate. The boy who played him, Peter Ostrum, pulled off the single greatest disappearing act in Hollywood history. When filming wrapped in Munich, the studio knew they had a star. They laid a massive 3-picture contract in front of him. It was the golden ticket every child actor bleeds for. Ostrum looked at it, looked at the executives, and said no. He didn't want the fame. He didn't want the cameras. Instead, he bought a horse. Ostrum realized that he preferred the quiet company of animals to the blinding lights of a movie set. He went to school, got his degree in veterinary medicine, and spent the next 4 decades working as a large animal veterinarian in rural New York. For years, he kept his identity a total secret. When people in his town asked if he was the boy from the movie, he would tell them it was his brother. Today, Peter Ostrum is 66 years old. He is one of the few surviving main actors. He spent his life pulling calves from dairy cows and walking through quiet barns. Charlie Bucket won the Chocolate Factory, and then he handed the keys back to live in peace.
Violet Beauregard was loud, arrogant, and determined to chew the same piece of gum for a year. To turn Denise Nickerson into a giant blueberry, the effects team sealed her inside a massive, heavy foam suit and hooked her up to an air hose. The pressure was intense. At one point during filming, the air pressure was left on too long, and the suit nearly suffocated her. She was physically trapped inside her own costume, terrified, while the cameras rolled. Nickerson survived the factory, but she could not survive the grind of the industry. She quit acting at the age of 21, choosing to work as a receptionist and an accountant. She just wanted a normal life. But in 2018, tragedy found her. A massive stroke ravaged her brain, leaving her paralyzed and unable to speak. She spent her final year trapped in a failing body, reliant on her son to care for her. In July of 2019, at the age of 62, after a severe seizure put her into a coma, her family made the agonizing decision to remove her from life support. The girl who famously survived the juicing room could not escape her own mortality. Veruca Salt was the ultimate spoiled brat, and her father, Mr. Salt, was the man who gave her everything. Julie Dawn Cole, who played Veruca, is still alive today. She spent years working as a fitness instructor and a psychotherapist, using the irony of her famous role to help real people navigate their real problems. But the man who played her father met an end so senseless, it broke the hearts of everyone on that cast list. Roy Kinnear was a comedic genius. He was a man who would do absolutely anything for a laugh. In 1988, at the age of 54, Kinnear was filming The Return of the Musketeers in Toledo, Spain. The director demanded he ride a horse across a stone bridge, even though Kinnear was terrified of horses and was not a trained rider. The horse slipped. Kinnear was thrown violently to the cobblestones, shattering his pelvis. He was rushed to a hospital in Madrid, bleeding internally. The trauma to his body was too massive. The next day, his heart stopped. Julie Dawn Cole was devastated. The man who had played her indulgent, bumbling father on screen had been a warm, protective figure to her on set. He died in agony on a foreign movie set because a director refused to use a stuntman. Augustus Gloop was the boy who couldn't stop eating. When 12-year-old Michael Bollner arrived on set, he didn't speak a word of English. He had to learn his lines phonetically, repeating sounds he didn't understand. When it came time for him to fall into the chocolate river, he wasn't acting when he looked terrified. The water was freezing cold, smelled like rotting cocoa, and he couldn't actually swim. Today, Bollner is one of the few still alive. He stands at a massive 6'7" tall. And just like Peter Ostrum, he completely abandoned the movie industry. He went back to Germany, went to school, and opened his own tax accounting firm in Munich. The boy who nearly drowned in a fake chocolate river now spends his days swimming through tax codes and financial documents. He has zero regrets. Gene Wilder was the engine. Every half smile, every manic glare, every moment of terrifying silence. He insisted on his iconic entrance, limping heavily on a cane before dropping into a perfect somersault, so the audience would never know if he was lying or telling the truth. For decades, Wilder was the gold standard of cinematic magic. But privately, his world was marked by profound grief. He watched the love of his life, comedian Gilda Radner, wither and die from ovarian cancer. And then, his own brilliant, lightning-fast mind began to turn to static. Alzheimer's disease took root in his brain. Wilder kept his diagnosis a total secret from the public.
He couldn't bear the thought of a child walking up to him on the street, pointing at him, and realizing that Willy Wonka was losing his memory. He chose to protect the illusion of the Candyman, rather than ask the world for pity. On August 29, 2016, his family gathered around his bed. As he took his final breaths, a speaker in the room played Ella Fitzgerald singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. He closed his eyes, and the Candyman was gone.
Of the 5 children who walked into the factory, only a few are still breathing. The ones who are alive survived by walking away from the camera. The ones who died left behind a movie that outlived them all. If you remember the first time you watched Willy Wonka open those gates, leave a comment below. Every reply gets read. Hit subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.